Tonight, Port Augusta's youth centre targeted by vandals once again, and two great whites filmed fighting over a dolphin off the state's west coast.
This is Southern Cross News with Abby Donaldson.
Good evening. Despite the extremely dry times devastating parts of South Australia, the state government won't declare it a drought. It also claims local farmers haven't reached out for assistance yet.
Much of the country has been declared in drought, but the South Australian government won't announce the same for regional areas of the state, which have hardly received a drop of rain all year.
Well, in South Australia, we don't have a declaration of drought.
Also claiming farmers are not yet reaching out for help.
To date, we're not hearing anyone calling out for financial support. We're not talking anything that it's a very, very dry year.
But while the state government isn't calling it a drought, the farmers are.
It's a drought, I think. Yeah, it's definitely a drought. We're on a knife edge at the moment, so if it doesn't rain, the season shuts down. Yeah, we're not going to have much to harvest.
But the state government isn't leaving farmers out to dry.
We understand what's going on ground as government and also making sure that we can put measures in place, informed measures in place, working with our dry group or dry working group.
Along with the dry working group in place, farmers are also impressed to see rural communities looking out for each other.
The old keep an eye on a mate thing, the backup that others are giving is excellent, and I think that's just what needed.
Casey Trelaw, Southern Cross News.
A huge convoy of over 20 trucks carrying bales of hay from Western Australia to drought-affected farmers in New South Wales had a pit stop in Broken Hill last night. The convoy arrived in the Silver City just after 9 o'clock en route to Condobolin this morning. Approximately 1,200 tonnes of hay is being transported by the trucks, enough to feed 20,000 sheep for 6 months. The cross-country operation was funded entirely by donations. Port Augusta's youth centre has been forced to pick up the pieces after a spate of break-ins over the last 2 months. Two separate incidents have left the children's centre with an estimated $8,000 damage bill.
An inclusive and safe centre for kids, the target of heartless vandals.
Yeah, it's very, very frustrating.
The Port Augusta Youth Centre has felt the force of two separate break-ins in as many months. The first incident occurred in July, when thieves forced entry to the premises through outside doors and windows.
I noticed that some damage had been done to some televisions and that some PlayStation equipment was missing.
The rear windows of the centre's bus had also been shattered. Not long had the damage been repaired on the vehicle when just last week the bus was singled out again. 3 of the windows smashed by rocks.
We're now one bus down, and that makes it a little bit more difficult for us to provide a pick-up and drop-off service.
Management of the youth centre estimate the damage bill for the 2 attacks will rack to just under $10,000, and they've had no luck finding those responsible.
The police are still investigating.
The centre has been forced to upgrade its security, with the hope new cameras can bring future crimes to justice.
I feel quietly confident that if this sort of damage continues, that the perpetrators will be caught.
Anyone with information is urged to call Crime Stoppers. Garth Burley, Southern Cross News.
A real estate watchdog has named Broken Hill as a wise investment location. One researcher says thanks to a spike in sales, locals can expect to see a rise in house prices.
Broken Hill is a good place to invest. That's the message from hotspotting.com.au.
For people looking for very affordable buys and good rental yields, above average rental yields, then it certainly is a good place to buy in those terms.
In their recent quarter price index, Hotspotting named Broken Hill as an attractive location to invest in.
The objective of that report is to determine the places where prices are likely to rise because there has been a pattern of rising sales activity.
On the ground, local real estate agents say they're seeing a good turnover of properties at the moment.
Properties are selling more quickly, so a really good momentum in the sales market and good turnover of stock.
What we're seeing from buyers is rather than them, say, looking at 10 properties, then making a low offer on a property, they're only looking at a handful and then purchasing one. So yeah, there's a bit more pressure on the buyers now to secure the property.
But experts warn that Broken Hill's market relies strongly on the resources sector, making it volatile.
It's a high-risk market from a property investment viewpoint. It has had periods in the past of strong growth, but over the last 5 years in particular, prices have been going backwards, so that can always happen.
Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
A 3-year trial of planting manuka trees in Warrabra began today. It's all about exploring the possibility of growing the product locally to produce honey and medical products, then exporting it around the globe.
Planting over 1,000 manuka trees across 10 hectares of land in the Warrabra Forest Reserve, which was destroyed in the 2014 Bangor bushfire.
Grow manuka bushes in the Warrabra region to create a new industry for the region due to the fires that went through and burnt out the forests.
And understanding what it can mean, not only for the local economy, but what it could mean as a sought-after food product for our international customers.
It's hoped the manuka will be used to make honey and other products to be exported around the world.
It's selling it into the medical and makeup industries and of course the export market, which will be of great benefit to our state.
The state government has backed this trial project.
The Mid-North can diversify away from forestry and its traditional farming practices.
The trial will run for 3 years, and if it's successful, it could result in a new product line for Spring Gully Foods, as well as new job opportunities.
If the trial is successful, then there is opportunity for us to roll this out into a much larger scale.
Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
Still to come tonight, 2 great whites fight over dinner off the state's west coast. A year on from the sale of the Whyalla Steelworks, the man in charge of the process has welcomed the Steel City's growth. Mark Mentha returned to Whyalla this week to share his take on the 2-year saga.
During his 15-month stint in Whyalla, Mark Mentha was no stranger to the cameras. He was the public face of the Arium administration process, guiding the city through its darkest period. Nearly 12 months on since he handed over to GFG Alliance, he says he's glad to see the city on the right track.
The vibe in the whole town, I think, is quite positive, and I think the Gupta family group have got some initiatives.
He returned this week for filming on an Australian Story episode that will air about Whyalla in the next month. He says he continues to monitor the progress of GFG Alliance.
People come back through Melbourne who work here and call in and just give us an update on what's going on, so it's always a delight to just revisit.
And recent announcements have only given him confidence they made the right decision.
To see the vibrancy of the business continuing gives the Quartermenta team a lot of reassurance.
But he says the real heroes are the locals.
They're so embracing and so grateful, and a very resilient community to get through the trials and tribulations.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Whyalla primary school students got a taste of science this morning at a STEM expo. Students from 7 local schools took part in a number of activities run by students from Whyalla and Ayr High. The interactive activities were aimed at encouraging an interest in science, engineering and maths as they head towards secondary education. Ayr High's Lauren Owens says with South Australia's economy based around these industries, getting kids interested is critical.
Students are going to come out of school entering jobs that don't even exist yet. So it is a department priority at the moment.
Year 10 maths students at John Pirie Secondary School have been busy calculating real-life data to raise money for Food for Education, an organisation which provides lunches to students in Kenya who would otherwise go without.
23 million children go to school hungry every day in Africa, while 1 in 4 Kenyan children are stunted due to malnutrition. These Port Pirie students are hoping to make a difference by using algebra to raise money for Food for Education.
It's got a business math side to it and algebra as well, so we're looking at their total revenue, their total expenses and finding the break-even point.
The Year 10 class today put on a barbecue and a bake sale to help raise money towards lunches for students in Kenya. So far they've raised $1,000 but are aiming for $3,000.
$2.50 will feed 1 child for a week. we decided to aim for a goal of to be able to feed 30 kids, which is the size of our class, every week for at least 6 months.
The project makes maths more meaningful for students knowing they're making a positive difference.
It means it's helping kids in Kenya getting food.
It's really opened our eyes to what really happens in different countries.
We were able to look at the wider scope of things and to be able to apply it to everyday life.
To show your support, visit the JPSS Food for Education fundraiser GoFundMe page. Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
In an extremely rare encounter, a group of fishermen on the state's west coast had front row seats to a pair of sharks fighting over dinner. Just off the coast of Smoky Bay, the oyster fishermen came across a great white shark feeding on a dolphin, but it turns out there was some competition. A larger shark suddenly appeared under one of the boats when suddenly the two sharks were seen fighting over the dolphin carcass. The smaller shark was the sore loser, while the winner came past the boat again to show off its prize. What amazing pictures. The Broken Hill Art Exchange has a second base of operations, setting up shop in the Grand Guest House on the city's main street. The exchange already has an artist utilising the facility who's been moulding the earth to make his masterpieces.
In the heart of the CBD, the Broken Hill Art Exchange has some new digs.
We're now in an expansion project for the Broken Hill Art Exchange.
The exchange has taken over the Grand Guest House on Argent Street, offering local and visiting artists a place to stay and work. Sydney artist Ryan Hoffman is already making the most of the facilities, using a room to showcase his earthy sculptures.
Just having the isolation to work on the work, which is kind of part of why I wanted to come up here, to get away from Sydney and work on some new works.
Ryan has been working around Broken Hill for the past 3 weeks, moulding paint into the earth and creating unique sculptures.
I wanted to look at the ground and the relationship to the landscape that the body has.
His silhouette dog sculptures are also quite eye-catching.
Kind of making this Rorschach shape, and for me they're kind of like a universal portrait, if that makes sense. It allows you or I to see something within the work.
The Broken Hill Art Exchange will open the doors to its second home on Saturday at 11 o'clock. Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
The Corn Jockey Club are ramping up preparations ahead of the town's biggest yearly event, the Corn Cup. Organisers are hopeful new developments around the track will improve the experience for those on foot and on saddles.
The first horse hoof prints are starting to show. But in 2 weeks' time, this track is set to see much more.
Most of the town comes out. Yeah, they always look forward to the annual Corn Cup.
The annual race meet is one of the premier events on the town's calendar. The local jockey club is busy readying the track before the 5-race day, clearing rocks and other objects from the surface.
We've got to make it safety for jockeys, horses.
The course has made some new improvements. They've installed new wash bays for the thoroughbreds, as well as new signage on the outer track, which will make it easier for onlookers to see how much longer their horses have to run.
They needed upgrading now. They're a lot bigger, a lot clearer. He can see them a lot easier.
The track was badly damaged by flooding 3 years ago, and due to hefty repair costs, the Jockey Club had to postpone the event in 2016. But a promising return last year saw around 1,000 punters through the gates, and organisers say the future looks bright again.
And now everything's up and running again, and yeah, we're looking forward to keep on going.
The Corn Cup will be held on the 25th of this month, with the first horses out of the gate at 10:30. Garth Burley, Southern Cross News.
Stay with us after the break. We'll have fish and tips.
And the weekend is almost upon us. I'll have all the local weather details soon.
Welcome back. Time now to see what's biting around the region.
G'day and welcome to this week's Fish and Tips from Port Augusta, Jewel North. Well, a few changes on the way. The weather's just starting to get that little bit of warmth and apparently a lot of the slime's actually moved out, which is a good opportunity to get in there for the King George whiting. There are quite a few King George whiting around, the usual white holes along the shacks, Flinders Channel, and even far down as Chinaman's Creek over in that area as well. Squid are there, but they'll start to be moving out. When that slime starts to move and gets warm, they'll start moving out, so try and stock up for those along the shacks and out in the middle banks there. Some big snapper getting caught to around 10 kilos around the seabird area, and there's also the odd flathead out in the middle banks as well. That's all we have from the Jewel North.
Hi, Whalers fishing report this week. Land-based around Whyalla, there's been a few silver whiting taken from the foreshore and also some nice sized mullet along with those. It has been very hit and miss, but if you can brave the cold, there's been some good fish down there. Out towards Point Lowly, there's been some nice sized salmon. Yeah, they've been really hit and miss, guys, but if you walk the shoreline flicking those lures, I'm sure you can get into a good feed. Out off the boats for Whyalla, there's been some great sized King George whiting, especially further south of Whyalla, down towards Cowes Landing and Menini, and snapper have also been taken from the same area.
G'day and welcome to this week's fishing tips from Port Lincoln. Starting up around Tumby Bay, there's been a few whiting around Ski Beach, but not many. Better catches have been coming from out of the group from the bigger boats. There's also been a few squid around the town. Moving down to Port Lincoln, once again the squid have been going really well this week. They're starting to improve in size, which is good. The whiting around the bay have been a little bit patchy. Better catches have been coming from the Carcass Rock to Taylor's Landing stretch. Moving down to the south coast now, the salmon is still down there in big numbers. Also around the Coffin Bay area, there's been a few salmon, trout and whiting inside the bay, but the whiting have been better out along the Sandhills and also Frenchman's area. That's it for this week, guys. We'll see you again next week.
And time now for the weather with Amy.
Thanks for that, Abby. Showers and cloudy skies around the region today as temperatures cool down. 17 the top in Port Augusta and Whyalla, showers for Port Perry and 16 degrees. And before we continue with the forecast, thank you to Christine who sent in this lovely sunset at Port Augusta Wharf. And if you have a weather shot you'd like to share, we love seeing them and you can send it through to localnews@sca.com.au. Turning to the satellite now, and cloud in the southeast in unstable winds is generating showers. Skies are clear further north with a ridge of high pressure. If you're out on the waters tomorrow, northerly winds will shift northwesterly up to 20 knots with seas reaching 2 metres. The sun is rising at 6:58 while sunset is at 5:50. A few showers around tomorrow, wet and windy conditions in Port Lincoln with a top of 17 degrees. Kadina seeing showers and 18. It should be a fine end to the weekend in Port Lincoln before a cloudy Monday and a top of 15. Similar conditions in Cleve, while Woodna will see a mostly sunny start to next week. A fine start to Monday in Whyalla with a high of 17, while maximums in Port Augusta will be a little warmer. After some showers early on the weekend, conditions should clear in Kadina with temperatures in the mid-teens. Showers clearing in Port Pirie late into the weekend, heading for a top of 16 on Monday. Cooler days ahead in Clare, maximum sitting at 12 degrees. And in Broken Hill, a sunny day to kick off the new working week, with reaching 15 degrees. So Abby, it's looking like the sun will return as we head into next week.
Thanks, Amy, and that's all the local news this Thursday. Thanks for your company. From the team, good night.